I'm Mbweha, you can call me Ben of Team Relentless, and this is the Playbook, where you can come to learn to do something very specific in Star Wars Legion a little bit better than you did before, I hope. Today we're talking about the iconic X-34 Landspeeder, made famous in A New Hope as Luke's speeder. Now, this unit has been out for a while, and... rude? Okay, let's see what Jar Jar 420 has to say. I'm sure it's all positive. Dear Mbweha, you can call me Ben of Team Relentless. I can't help but notice you're doing an episode on the archaic X-34 Landspeeder instead of the brand new AA5 speeder truck. I just wanted to do you a favor and list the 5 reasons why this is a bad choice for your series. Okay, Jar Jar 420, here's the thing. The AA5 speeder truck just came out, and I'm not convinced anyone has figured out how to play it the best way that it can be played yet. Now, this is not a series for the clicks, as the kids may or may not say, but it is a series where you can come to learn to do something very specific in Star Wars Legion a little bit better than you did before, I hope. So when I think I have good advice to give for the AA5 speeder truck, I'll give it. There's no preamble needed for this one, so let's just jump right in with number 1, the R5 loadout. Okay, so the new unstable R5 Astronaut from the Speeder Truck expansion is pretty hot on the X-34. If you aren't familiar with this crew slot option, what it does is it lets you attack twice in one activation once per game for a measly 6 points. However, it also has the pricey drawback of causing you to suffer as many as 3 wounds. It's 1.5 wounds on average, for those of you who like to hear the odds.
3,720 to 1! Never tell me the odds.
So if you're going to be attacking twice, you obviously want to be packing some serious heat, and this is the build that I would take a look at. So we've got the R5 for the double tap, the hot shot for the sharpshooter, and the ion blaster and RPS 6 for the oomph. This comes in at a cool 136 points and has the capability of forcing 7 or 8 saves against armor as well as 2 ion tokens, all in a single activation. Also, if you know you're going to be issuing orders to your X-34 from your command hand, then LTA is a fantastic choice to add to the build. However, if you aren't going to be issuing commands to it from your command hand, then I do recommend an HQ uplink, which is great value because you're going to be refreshing at least once in the game anyway. Now, I know some of you are wondering why I'm recommending the Ion Blaster over the Mark II in this build, so let's just imagine that we did sub in the Mark II and see what we get if we do that. It's going to cost us 6 fewer points, it's going to fire at range 3 instead of range 4, it's going to be better at firing at troopers, but it's going to be quite a bit worse at firing at armor. So you do you, but I really think that the Ion Blaster is the way to go. Number 2, the R5 double tap. So let's break down how to perform this little maneuver. First of all, we need to know that our maximum range for the attack is 24 inches. We also need to know that a single perfectly straight speed 2 move on the X-34 is 8.4 inches. That means that when you're pre-measuring for this little caper, the furthest away you can be from your target is 32.4 inches, which is 5.4 range rulers. To play it safe, assume that you need the X-34 within 5.25 range rulers to do the double tap. So you compulsory move up into range, attack, and refresh. Then you pop R5 to attack again and see how much auto damage you just dealt yourself. Now, in a perfect world, you're going to have done this towards the end of the first round. That way, at the beginning of the second round, you can go with the X-34 again, refresh, fire, and compulsory move away. If you're out activated and that isn't possible, then you might consider going really early with the X-34 in round 1 so that you can really shut down your opponent's armor piece and then move up aggressively with the rest of your army. In general, the sooner you're able to pull off the ion double tap against armor, the better it is for you. So you want to do it no later than round 2. Number 3, the Gonk loadout. How this ever got costed at 10 points, I will never understand. Maybe they were only doing the math for putting it on the AA5, but in any case, the place where the Gonk's the gonkiest is definitely on the X-34. The efficiency of the X-34 is incredibly dependent on the way that it is loaded out. Pre-Gonk, a loadout like this one would have had these numbers. For the sake of comparison, here are the same numbers for a T-47 with a harpoon. Now let's add a Gonk and see what happens. That's outstanding defensive value. If you're running an X-34 that isn't the R5 double tap loadout, then this little gonker should be included in your build 100% of the time. Now, of course, that doesn't hit as hard as the T-47, but let's see what happens if we swap out that rifle for an RPS 6. Well, would you look at that? So, you can actually push the X-34 to be almost as offensively efficient as a T-47. However, when you do so, it becomes a little bit less defensively efficient comparatively. So, given all this data, you should 100% be asking yourself why you would ever take an X-34 over a T-47? Well, the answer to that is because a snowspeeder can't do this.
You know, sometimes I amaze even myself.
Number 4, best characters to transport. Not only can the X-34 pack a punch or be loaded out to be one of the most wounds efficient units in the game, it can transport your incredibly powerful rebel heroes all over the battlefield. But which character should be riding shotgun?
Excuse me. Get your presumptuous ass out of my seat.
There are 2 broad categories of heroes to transport. Those who will use it to do drive-bys, and those who will use it to hurtle themselves at enemies like cannonballs. There are enough variables in play here that it's difficult for me to say that these are empirically the best characters to transport in the X-34. So instead, we're going to just do a flyby on the options. See what I did there?
Jeez, I cracked myself up.
Han and Chewie unsurprisingly make a good team in dual X-34 lists because of teamwork. Watch out for how close Han's going to have to get to fire his blaster, and don't forget that Chewie is incredible in melee in a pinch. Our other gunslinging rebel hero is Sabine Wren. Now, we've already covered how to use the X-34 to get her in for a turn 1 explosions in a previous video, but since then there have been rules updates that actually allow her to drop those bombs from within the X-34 itself. Given that, that means at the end of turn 1, the X-34 could triple move. She could drop bombs anywhere on the board pretty much, and on turn 2, speed away to safety. Now, I'm not saying that's a good idea, I'm just letting you know it's possible now. In general, Sabine is really versatile in the X-34. She can drop her bombs from it, she can gunslinger from it, she can hop out and do objectives. Do remember that you cannot disembark into a melee, and since Sabine does not have charge, that putting the Darksaber on her, if she's going to be riding in the X-34, is a waste of points. Lando's another good shooty character to consider putting in your X-34. He's got the range 3 attack with sharpshooter 2, it's red and black, and once per game with his 1 pip, he can be a gunslinger as well. R2 is one of my favorite choices to put in the X-34, not because of his attack abilities, but because he can now perform secret mission from inside of the X-34. In addition to that, as it takes fire, he can repair the X-34, and if Shriv is the pilot, Shriv can give him a suppression so that R2 can't even be targeted by enemy ranged attacks. We also need to talk about how operative loot with saber throw is utterly terrifying in an X-34. 4 black, surge to crit, pierce 2 from mobile heavy cover, and that's before he hops out and starts charging, force pushing, and using his incredible suite of command cards at close range. But perhaps my hottest take ever is Sniper Cassian in the X-34.
What?
I know. Sniper Cassian is largely considered not good, but hear me out. Cassian's sniper config has cumbersome, but the X-34 moving does not count as Cassian moving, so you can use the X-34 to transport Cassian around the battlefield while he fires from his sniper config. Then he'll reconfigure at some point into his pistol config, hop out of the speeder, and do things like normal. Heck, you could even run double Landspeeders and run K2 with a pistol in the other. Number 5, how to not transport like an idiot. The transporting rules can be difficult to keep track of, especially because they've changed since the X-34 came out. I'm not going to read the RRG to you, but I want to highlight a few of the most important things to remember. The most important rule to remember is that a transported unit only gets 1 action if the X-34 takes more than 1 standard move. A standard move is any speed X move, including a compulsory move. So keep that in mind when you're doing your pre-measuring. As a reminder, the X-34 moves 8.4 inches in a straight line. That's 1.4 range rulers. A transported unit with a standby token won't lose the standby when the X-34 moves. That's not going to come up very often, but it's a good tool to keep in your tool belt. Be careful about not running your heroes too far away from your army. This is relevant for your command bubble as well as wanting your army to all hit the same target at once to bring it down. In general, consider putting recon intel on any of the units that you want to get into the fray with the X-34 as quickly as possible. Bonus! Remember that Ion also affects droid troopers, so you could R5 double tap a unit of B2s and shut them down for an entire turn as well. Remember that 2 Ion tokens is just as good as 50, but keep in mind that if your opponent has repair, they could peel them off before they take effect. Remember that since the X-34 doesn't have a melee weapon, it can't move into base contact with enemy units. However, enemy melee units can go base to base with the X-34, which would prevent any transported units from firing at that unit with ranged weapons. Summary. Let's review. Number 1, the R5 loadout is best with the Ion Blaster and RPS-6. Number 2, the R5 double tap goes like this: compulsory, attack, recover, R5, attack. Number 3, Gonk is good. Number 4, most Rebel heroes look pretty good in the X-34, but I like R2, Cassian, and Operative Luke best. And number 5, be sure to read up on all the transport rules before throwing the X-34 on the table. Now you know how to play the X-34 better than before. I hope. If you liked the video, please prove it, and subscribe if you're into that sort of thing. Oh, and by the way, I have included a few of my personal favorite X-34 lists in the description, just FYI. I'm Mbweha, you can call me Ben of Team Relentless, and this has been the Playbook, X-34 Landspeeder.